you did a $15,000 deal loan that it's now worth $1.2 million through a 1031 exchange. Tell us that story. What is going on, DeRosa Insiders? It's Matt Faircloth, and thank you for watching or listening or joining the Cash Flow Digest program. If you're watching this thing live, that's because you're on the DeRosa Facebook feed at DeRosa Insiders. If you're not, what are you doing? Go right now to Facebook. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Join DeRosa Insiders on Facebook. There, we've got people talking about deals. We've got people talking about opportunities. And we've got people talking about all things real estate. And this show is broadcast live at noon Eastern every week. Today's guest, we've got royalty in the house, guys. Today's guest was on the Bigger Pockets podcast recently. It is an honor to go on the Bigger Pockets podcast. It is a life-changing event to go on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And if you guys are looking to raise your game in real estate, it should be consider having that as a goal one day to have that for yourself as well. Our guest just wrapped up a show on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Can't wait to hear how that goes. Lots of other interesting conversations, like turning 15 grand into 4,000 a month by investing in the overlooked asset class of mobile homes. Just got done talking about that. Let's talk about it some more. Guys, let's bring in our guest, Jason Velie. Jason, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Thanks, man. Doing well. Sorry, I've got a little cold today, so I'm a little raspy, but doing well. Thanks for having me.
You are above ground, and that's good, man. And I'm grateful that you're here. Good stuff. Don't worry about the cold. Get easy on Jason today. Comment section. Be nice. All right. And it is Friday anyway, so we got to be kind anyway. Jason, man, tell me your thoughts on how mobile homes may be a good solution. Not everybody wants to live in a mobile home. I get it. It's not the only solution. But could mobile homes be one of the solutions to the affordable housing problem we're having here in America?
Absolutely. I think so. And, I think not only traditional mobile homes, but also, tiny homes. Tiny homes have been so popular here recently that, I know some folks that build a lot of tiny homes, and I think they've been in discussions with HUD to see if they can get them regulated similarly to trailers, manufactured homes, mobile homes, whatever you want to call them. But I think if we could get permission and permits and build communities of tiny homes instead of maybe what most people think of when they think of like a mobile home park, where they're thinking of rundown, not well maintained trailers from the 60s and 70s that are falling apart, not taken care of. I think if we could fill in the amount of people in one space and at a lower price point, but also do it with something that's aesthetically pleasing, I think that would alleviate most people's concerns while still affording that opportunity to the lower income folks that need it.
Absolutely. I think it's, I keep saying not for everybody, but it's for a lot of people. And when people are faced with the option of, well, I can afford X amount of dollars per month, right? They should have mobile home as an option, because living in the area they live in could be living in a rundown apartment building or living in a dilapidated, under improved single family home, or live in a brand new mobile home park, right? For around the same dollars per month, or a tiny home community, as you mentioned. That's a great point. And people don't take tiny homes seriously, do they? They should. Mm-hmm. But people think it's kind of like a joke, or it's almost like, oh, it's a glamping thing. It's something those crazy millennials are doing, whatever. But tiny homes are a better solution than people think that they are, because not for nothing, people don't need the 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot that a lot of people live in. They don't need all that. Maybe all they need is 600 square foot to really live well. In certain parts of the world where outside can become part of your living space, where like that maybe outside becomes your dining room or outdoors becomes your living room or whatever it is, maybe there are better solutions that we can come up with in America if we think outside the box, and tiny homes are certainly one of those outside the box solutions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's tell our audience all about you. Give us for those that didn't get the chance to listen to the podcast yet, for the Bigger Pockets podcast, tell us all about you, what you're up to, backstory, the whole intro.
Sure. So I'll try to make it as brief as I can. So my background is in finance. I went to school for finance and was a licensed financial advisor for a short time. And then I worked with institutional trust funds for many years. And about 4 years ago, roughly, I started investing in real estate on the side. And my entire business model from day one has been flip single family houses, including manufactured homes, to drum up enough capital to put as down payments on apartment buildings. And the goal was to do that until I had enough passive, pure net rental cash flow coming in to cover all of our living expenses before I considered leaving the day job. And in the meantime, the day job paid all the bills. All of the real estate, the flipping income just went to buy more rentals that I sat with property managers. So it didn't take much more of my time. Because at the time that I started, I had my wife and 2 kids at that point. Now we are expecting our 5th child soon. So life is very busy. But nonetheless, in April of this year, the day before I turned 30, I quit my 6-figure W-2 and went full-time into real estate. And I was able to do that comfortably because we reached that number of cash flow to where, because my whole thing was, I just want to do this safely so that, if the housing market collapsed and I couldn't flip any more houses for income for 2 or 3 years, neither one of us would have to go back to, get a W-2. We would be able to live off of the cash flow just fine. And that was, could I have cut the day job sooner and taken that leap, that risk, and probably done really well and scaled even faster? Absolutely. But with a family that was counting on my income, that's not where my risk tolerance was at the time. And in the financial world, risk tolerance is a very, very focused, important aspect that, everybody needs to take into account. But so as of now, today, I have between 4 apartment complexes, I have 59 doors, and I've got 1 partner on 2 of those 4. So of ownership percentage, I own 44 out of those 59 doors. It's net somewhere around 10,000 a month cash flow, and I have either 12 or 13 active flips in the works right now as well.
Are those all active flips? Are those mobile home deals, or are they single family homes?
It's about half and half. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about flipping a mobile home, because there's been a lot of folks that we've talked to and that people have heard talk about flipping a house, but flipping a mobile home's got to be a whole different ballgame. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so it's truly not that much different. There's just a handful of nuances that you need to know. First of all, you need to know that you're not going to have the potential exit strategy of refinancing to hold on to it. So, for the traditional BRRRR method, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, these aren't really a good option for that, because you can get financing for these as a primary residence all day long, but you can't get mortgages for these as investment properties. So if you're using, hard money or private money to fund these flips on manufactured homes, pretty much your only exit strategy is to resell the property. But with a manufactured home, whether it's a single wide or a double wide, what happens is, when they're first created, they are created with a title with the DMV, just like a car, like a vehicle. That's why they're called mobile homes. And whenever that mobile home is put onto a piece of land and put on a permanent foundation, which usually is cinder block piers underneath the I-beams that are under the frame, there's a few other qualifications, like they're supposed to remove the tongue of the trailer and the wheels and axles and put some form of skirting around it, whether it's brick skirting or cinder block or vinyl. Any of those are fine. And then whenever that's put on a permanent foundation, there's 2 main things that are supposed to be done. And full disclosure, I'm only speaking from my experience doing this in the state of North Carolina. So if this could very well differ a little bit in whatever other states you may be in, but here, there's 2 things that's supposed to be done whenever you put a mobile home on a permanent foundation. The first is the title is supposed to be canceled with the DMV. There's a form that you can file where you're telling them, we've put it on a permanent foundation. It's not a mobile home anymore. So please cancel the title. And they'll cancel the title, which means you'll no longer get a property tax bill for that vehicle anymore. But then the second part is, there's a form. I've seen a couple different names for it. One is called affidavit of affixation, and one of them is called a declaration of intent to affix to real property. Whichever version you use of that, you're supposed to fill that out and record that with the county that it's in. And that form is telling the county that, hey, we have canceled the title with the DMV. It's no longer a mobile home. We've put it on a permanent foundation. So you're now allowed to tax this as a piece of real estate, as a property, rather than the county only taxing the piece of land like they previously were. So that's when it becomes real estate. It's considered real property. And at that point, it can qualify when you flip it and you're going to be selling it to somebody buying it as their primary residence. it qualifies for all of the same types of financing that stick-built houses do. As long as they're buying it as their primary, you can do conventional, FHA, USDA, VA, all of them. And I think in my experience, from what I've seen in my market is a lot of house flippers have shied away from touching manufactured homes. And some of that may be because they don't know a handful of those little nuances. But the biggest reason that I found is that most of them don't know that these qualify for financing on the back end.
That's
Most of
exactly
them,
why I believe they're not doing it for a lot of probably there's some judgment of the end buyer clientele that like that who's going to buy this thing that's got the amount of money I need them to have. But let's spot check, right? What is a typical rehabbed mobile home? Like, what's the average sell price you've sold a flipped mobile home for in the market?
right now in my area, a single wide on land is probably going to go for somewhere around 160 to 180, and the double wides, the flipped double wides are probably going to be anywhere from 225 to 260, and newer double wides I've seen go for 280, 300, 315, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, just with how much
What does
housing
the
prices
land
have
do?
gone
Is
up.
that land value? Does that but let me put a pin in that, right? Does that when you're selling that, they own the land and the building and the whole thing. This isn't like a land lease back to a landlord like you would see in somebody renting a mobile home, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Got
It's not, and also I'll, clarify that I don't touch manufactured homes if they don't come with the land. So
Right.
I'm not somebody that's going to buy a trailer for 5 grand that has to be moved and sell it to somebody else for 20 grand. That's not my business model. And I also haven't done anything with mobile home parks to date. What I'm doing flipping these houses is it's just a mobile home on one small piece of land, usually a quarter of an acre, zero point 0.4 acre, something like
Yeah.
that. But we have a lot of neighborhoods around this area that are full size, quarter acre to half acre lot, neighborhoods that are made up of all double wides, not a single
Mhm.
stick built house. And so there's a lot of opportunity around here.
So when you're flipping a mobile home, what are some of the things before I want to get into like the mechanisms of the flip, right? So what you're doing once you're inside the box, but let's start with what do you look for when you're looking for a deal and you want to flip a mobile home? What are some parameters that you use for your measuring sticks on whether or not it's a deal or not?
Yeah. So for the most part, whether it's manufactured or stick built, I pretty much follow the 70% rule, meaning that the deal at a minimum has to be total purchase price plus rehab costs don't exceed 70% of the ARV, the after repair value.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a double wide that I know I can resell for 200,000, I know my total purchase plus rehab at the most needs to be 140. So if I am estimating the rehab's going to be 30, I know the most that I can pay that person is 110. So I may try to get even better than that. I may start the offer at 90 or so and see where I can get, but I know 110 is going to be my max. And that's been a pretty good rule to follow, not only for the amount of money that you can make and what's worth your time, but more importantly for mitigating risk. That's a hefty enough margin that you can have a bunch of things go wrong that were unexpected
Mm-hmm.
and still end up doing fine and making a little bit of money, and more
Yeah.
importantly, not losing money.
So once you're inside, so that those are great parameters, right? You're financing with your own capital, hard money, investor capital. Like, is that like, since it's probably hard to finance or impossible to finance, as you said, as an investor, how are you financing the acquisition?
Yeah, so there are some hard money lenders that will loan on manufactured homes, short term, 6 or 9 month
Mhm.
terms. They are out there. I almost, for the most part now, I use private money, and I've got, some private money folks that have really deep pockets that can handle a lot of my volume, but they're a little bit more expensive, like, 2 points and 11.5% interest or so. But then I've got a handful of other folks that have smaller amounts that maybe they can fund one deal at a time, but they're willing to accept 0 points and 10% interest or 0 points and
Mm.
12% because they they trust me and my track record and ability, and they know that they see the collateral as well and how good of a deal that
Yeah.
I'm getting, and I don't really stray from numbers wise from those parameters. So yeah, I use hard money or private money for every one of my flips, even if I have capital available. One, because I like to stay liquid. I feel more safe that way. And two, opportunity cost. If I've got a ton of capital tied up in my own flips and some incredible apartment deal comes across my desk and I don't have the money to buy it, I would, really be kicking myself.
So it sounds like you're financed through private capital, and hey, great book. I know a guy, and I'm grateful enough to see. I believe I see my book over your head right there. Cool. I'm grateful. I would suspect the private capital has got to be a big part of the game for flipping mobile homes, but certainly necessary in today's economy. Going forward, typical mobile home deal. You got it under contract. You own it now. Let's say first day. Give me a typical reno of a mobile home, right? Fix and flip for a single family house. A lot of us understand it's all kitchens and bathrooms. It's paint, a lot of exterior, a lot of interior, basements, those kinds of things, attics. A lot of that doesn't play in a mobile home. But typical mobile home rehab, what are you doing to turn it around?
Yeah, I'd say it varies, but on average, it's mostly cosmetic. We're doing LVP throughout the whole house. We're doing minor wall repairs and painting the whole house, and light fixtures and new appliances, maybe new toilets. If the showers and bathtubs look like really dingy, then I'll have a professional bathtub refinishing company come and refinish them and make them, they look brand new when they're done with them. But for the most part, we typically are leaving kitchen cabinets and bathroom vanities and showers and tubs in place, only replacing those if the condition is bad enough. But most of them we're doing.
Are you painting the cabinet boxes?
No, I have before, but a lot of times with the manufactured homes, they're made with the cabinets that have that like plastic covering over them instead of the
veneer. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That stuff doesn't take paint too well now.
Right. Yeah. And half the time you've got, rips and tears in that veneer that you can't really, just paint and cover that up.
They'll probably look even worse if you painted them. Right.
Right.
Okay. Good stuff. Now you flip some houses too. What are things in flipping a mobile home unit that it just doesn't play? You just don't see it. That you would like you see these things flipping a house. I'm trying to get you to tell me how flipping a mobile home is easier, right? It sounds like it's easier, but in what way are things that you don't have to think about? And if it's harder, you can say that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say it is easier in most cases. And most contractors that have worked on them have acknowledged the same thing, that they're very easy to work on. They're very simple. The way that they're built. So for example, in the crawl space, you've got access to every bit of the plumbing very easily, and it's very accessible. So even though, like, say you got a stick built house, especially if it's on a slab, how much is that going to cost if you have to replumb the whole house? It's going to be a lot of money. Well, with these, even your retail price plumbers is probably only going to cost you, for an average double wide, somewhere around $6,000 to replumb the whole house. And my more affordable plumber will replumb a whole double wide for $3,000. So that's pretty cheap, and it's pretty often a need as well, because one thing with these is that in the late 80s and early 90s, almost every manufactured home that was made during that time period was made with polybutylene plumbing. And polybutylene is very frail. It's very brittle after 20 or 30 years, which is why, it was banned after a certain time period. And so often you're going to find several active leaks under the house. And if you try to repair them, you're probably just going to cause 3 more leaks because you touched it. And so it'll give you issues on the back end. When your buyer does a home inspection, the inspector is going to say, oh no, this is terrible, you need to have it replaced. You can make the argument that it doesn't technically have to be replaced, but it's always going to give you a problem, and you should plan for it. And so the way to check for that when you're doing your first walkthrough of a mobile home to see if you want to buy it or not is just look under the vanities in the kitchen and the bathrooms, and look at your water supply lines coming up out of the ground through the subfloor. And if those pipes are a gray color, there's a 99% chance that it's polybutylene, and you're going to probably need to replumb the house. And you just work that into your numbers and make your offer from there. But if the plumbing is a different color, if it's tan or if it's white or blue and red, then you're probably going to be safe.
If it's blue and red, you lucked out because you got PECs. That's the new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so flipping mobile homes, interesting thing, works in certain markets, maybe doesn't work in others. And I get it because certain markets just don't have mobile homes that much. Totally fine. Bigger Pockets podcast that you were just on to hear all about your story, but I can't help but ask. On the show, you talked about this, but I want you to talk about it here too. I won't tell David Green that you talked about it on my show also. Talk us through this $15,000 absolute, like Grand Slam's not even the term for it, right? It's like whatever baseball plays beyond a Grand Slam, maybe you just hit one of these and you just win the game, right? You did a $15,000 deal loan that it's now worth $1.2 million through a 1031 exchange. Tell us that story so we can unpack that a little bit.
Absolutely. So it started with I bought a single wide trailer with the land through a wholesaler. I have no idea how the wholesaler got it cheap enough to sell it to me for this. No clue. But I bought that for $15,000. Already had a tenant in there. It didn't need any work. I didn't have 15 grand. So I borrowed it from somebody to be able to buy it. And my plan was just keep it as a rental and pay that person back their 15 as I got the, rent checks each month. And then about 4 months later or so, was looking at buying 2 duplexes and almost got them under contract, and that deal slipped away from me. And I'm a really sore loser. It caused me to then go hunting for other multifamily properties.
You're tenacious, Jason. That's what you are. You're not a loser. You're just tenacious, man. I love it. Keep going. So you didn't take the door slam as a no. You wouldn't either kick that door in or wouldn't find yourself another door. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, when you're a child losing in Monopoly and you flip the board over out of anger, that's maybe not a great time to be a sore loser. But as an entrepreneur, being a sore loser is a good quality to have.
Yeah.
So instead of, moping about getting that deal, I was just like, no, I'm not going to lose. I'm going to find one of these now. Now I almost got it. Yeah. I got that taste and I was like, I got to find one. So I built out this list and I ended up getting this 8-unit property under contract that at the current rents that it was at, I knew was probably already worth around 900 at that time once I got it up to market rent. And I got it under contract for 450,000. And I asked the seller, I said, hey, I would really love to be able to sell this other property I have in 1031 exchange into this, but obviously that's going to take a little bit of time. Would you mind if we set the closing out for 3 months? And he said, yeah, I understand what you're trying to do. That's fine. No problem. And so then I started the process to sell that single wide. I tried to get the tenant out so I could clean it up and sell it for the most, but I failed to get them out. So I ended up selling it to still occupied to a cash buyer only about 7 months after I bought it for $98,000. So 70 something thousand in gains, but my net proceeds from the sale was just over $90,000, which I did the 1031 exchange for, which was exactly the 20% down that I needed for the commercial loan for the $450,000 building. And that, which by the way, is a gorgeous property. It was only 20 years old when I bought it. It had a 3-year-old roof. It's absolutely beautiful. Each unit, 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,000 square foot, washer dryer connections in each one. Beautiful property. And now that property is probably worth somewhere around 1.2, and it's cash flowing over $4,000 a month.
That's great.
It's nuts. But that's what's possible with real estate. And that's what I tell people that complain all the time about not being able to find deals, whether it's single family or multifamily. I mean, you know how many times I hear from people, especially in my own market, about how there's no deals or how like the 70% rule is not applicable anymore.
Right.
No, you're wrong. I've got 13 of them right now, single family. And the multis, we've not had that much trouble finding those either when we're ready to find another one. So there's a quote somewhere I mentioned on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I don't remember who said it, but it goes something like, deals of a lifetime or opportunities of a lifetime come across roughly twice a year if you're always looking for them. Yeah. And that's been so true for me that, both that single wide trailer deal and that 8-unit deal, both would be called an opportunity of a lifetime. Yeah. And I've done several other deals since then that you would consider that as well. So, I hope that encourages people that.
No, it does. I had a broker tell me one time, the deal of the decade comes by once a week. What a broker said to me. And it's like, oh man. And as a newer investor, you're like, oh, easy for you. Maybe when you get good deals or whatever. Well, all it means is you get your ear to the ground. if you're focused. And my guess is, Jason, that you're not shopping 19 markets across the United States to do business. You're shopping in your own market in North Carolina. Which town in North Carolina are you focused in?
Wilmington.
Okay, got it. Wilmington, North Carolina. Not Charlotte, not Winston-Salem up where we are, not other markets. Wilmington, North Carolina. And that guys is how you get deals of the decade. That is how Jason's been able to expand, is through focus on markets. And it also enables you to be a little bit more shrewd and maybe even a little bit more lazy too, because like, not for nothing, Jason doesn't have to drive all around looking at deals all across creation. He's got enough going on in his own backyard, sounds like.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. And I think that whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. That's another quote to give you from Henry Ford, that those that are out there, oh, you can't do 7%, 70% anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, you're right. Okay. That's true for you. not true for me or true for Jason. Right. And one last, I'll just keep the quotes coming because they seem to apply to a lot of what you're talking about here. And this is T. Harv Eker. Don't buy real estate. Don't wait to buy real estate. Excuse me. Don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. Right. The reason that because you heard that story Jason just told about, oh, he got that 10 unit for $450K, right? Well, you can't get that deal anymore. You're right. You can't. But that's because Jason bought it a while ago. He didn't buy it last week. He bought it a while ago. And then he's waited and the market's gone up and everything like that. And yeah, it'll be worth a lot more than $450 for the foreseeable future. And I submit to you guys, the deals you guys buy today, for whatever number they are likely to be worth a good bit more tomorrow if you buy good deals. If you buy deals that cash flow day one, that makes sense, as Jason did. So Jason, this is all awesome, man. What is next for you, for Jason? What should we look out for you doing the next time you're on the Bigger Pockets podcast, or here joining me on this program, or me bumping into you at the Bigger Pockets conference again? What's next that we're going to hear about next time we see you?
Yeah, man. Truthfully, I'm not sure. I'm not. Right. I'm very contrarian to the entrepreneur space of everybody that has these giant goals to build huge empires, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's just not who I am. To me, because I started, where I had the day job to cover our bills, and then I waited to leave the day job until after I had the cash flow to cover it. There's never been any pressure for me to have to perform. And so everything I've been doing has just been fun, and it's been light, and it's been like a game to me that you're just trying to, bump up the scoreboard, so I'm one that if I put certain goals or expectations on myself, or if I tell myself that I have to track certain KPIs every day or week or month and make myself do certain tasks, to me, that feels like work. That feels like a job, or it feels like homework. And then that I can see how that would start to kind of taint the relationship that I have with real estate investing, of just having fun growth, Yeah. So I don't know. I think I would love the opportunity if I could come across something a little bigger, like, 50, 60 unit property within a few hours of here that needed a good amount of work. I've got the crews that are willing to travel a few hours that can handle a major rehab. And I'm fairly sure I've got enough network that I could, raise a few million if I need to. It's just, I've got a ton of people that have over the years reached out wanting to invest with me in something in an equity partner type position, but I have not yet come across a good enough and big enough deal where it makes sense to take on something like that.
Yeah. Well, you will, right? But I want to underscore a few things that you said, that not everybody needs to get into this game with a goal of making $1 billion, right? I can tell you that in a lot of ways, more money does equal more problems, right? And it does. There's not easy street. There's not like some hurdle you get to where life all of a sudden, your business all of a sudden gets easy. So it's not like, oh, I'll just invest up to where I'm making $100,000 a month passive and all my problems will magically dissolve. No, you'll just have different problems and larger problems and all that. So it's very pragmatic of you to look at it that way, to say, okay, I'm not going to just, for my ego or whatever, just earn as much as I can, or have as big of a portfolio as I can, so you can run around at the next BP con with your pinky next to your mouth like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, telling people how much money you got, or how many doors you got, right?
Right.
That's very pragmatic of you. And also, you get a lot of mouths to feed too, right? So it may be just enough to feed the new mouths coming on the way, right?
Yeah. I'm very strict on, I don't work evenings, I don't work weekends, and Wednesdays I take a half day to help out with other things, appointments and stuff. And, it works out really well for us.
It's a good work-life balance. And isn't that what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Isn't it really all about living life to its fullest, and maybe not all the dollars that you could possibly attract to yourself, but also about living a good life of balance, so your kids remember what you look like, and everything like that, right? So Well, that's great, man. Very pragmatic of you. Listen, man, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you for joining us on the Cash Flow Digest. For those that want to track you down and to hear more about you, pick your brain about Wilmington, get you to teach them how to flip mobile homes, all kinds of other great stuff you and I talked about today, and more that you could bring to the table, how to manage 5 kids, whatever, whatever advice they need from you. How do folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, about the kids, I'd have to direct them to my wife. But no, they can reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Bigger Pockets. If they want to check out my website just to see what it looks like, it's capefearcashoffer.com. So our area is considered the Cape Fear region. Or if you jasonvelie.com or jvwithjv.com, they all take you basically to the same spot.
Right. Let's go jasonvelie.com, VELIE, jasonvelie.com, guys. Go there and check out that site. You guys can learn more about Jason and hopefully contact him there. And that, Jason, awesome having you on the Cash Flow Digest today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Take care. Great conversation. I love what we got into at the end about really looking at the lifestyle that you want to generate from your investing business. I forbid any of you from forgetting that point, because your ego could tell you that making $1 million a month passive should be your goal, right? Well, first of all, start with why. And because I want to make more money or because I want money is never a good enough answer. I can promise you firsthand, I know this firsthand, that money does not equal happiness. I've seen it for myself and seen it in many friends. So happiness is generated, I think, through living life on your own terms. And so if real estate investing can help you get there, figure out how it will, and then live into that. There we go. Those of you guys that are watching the recording of this program, don't forget to go to DeRosa Insiders, INSIDERS. You know how to spell that. Go to DeRosa Insiders on Facebook and join us live in this community so you can be a part of the thousands of people that are part of the DeRosa Insiders group already, and join us for all things real estate talk. If you guys want to join us on our accelerator program or see if you qualify for that, go to derosagroup.com/accelerator. We do have a few seats open where we teach people how to double, triple, quadruple, even 10x their multifamily investing business through the DeRosa Group tactics, DeRosa Group strategies that we've developed, and give you guys a successful business in a box in 90 days or less that you can take and grow and scale your business with the tools that we have practiced here at the DeRosa Group and that we use on a daily basis. Check that out, guys. derosagroup.com/accelerator. Thank you for joining the Cash Flow Digest. We will see you guys next week. We'll see you guys there. Take care. Hey guys, Matt Faircloth here. Thank you for listening again to the Cash Flow Digest. I really appreciate you guys doing that. If you guys want to hear more about what DeRosa Group has to offer, go to DeRosa Group, DEROSA Group.com, derosagroup.com online. You can hear about all the great things that we offer from an educational standpoint and passive investment standpoint on our website. See you there. And if you guys want to join our online community, DeRosa Insiders on Facebook, where you can watch this program get recorded every Friday at noon Eastern, and you can come on as even a guest or ask questions on the show. We hope to see you guys on our online community, DeRosa Insiders. See you there.